Sometimes, life hands you the perfect recipe for poetic justice, and all you have to do is sprinkle a little sugar on top. Let me set the stage. There's this grocery store in my town. Pretty ordinary place. You walk in, and the floors squeak under your shoes. The produce is sometimes fresh, sometimes looking like it's been there long enough to develop a personality. The aisles are narrow, and if you meet someone coming the other way with a full cart, you're doomed to an awkward shuffle. But none of that really mattered, because in the back of the store, behind the freezers and the deli counter, was the bakery. And the bakery was where the real drama lived. They offer custom cakes, wedding cakes, birthday cakes, you name it. You pick the theme, the colors, the sprinkles, the icing. On paper, it sounds great, but there's a catch. You see, this bakery only has one decorator. Just one. And that decorator is a woman who, to put it gently, is a colossal asshole. If you've ever met someone who treats every customer request like it's a personal attack, you know exactly the type. She has a permanent scowl etched onto her face. She sighs loudly every time she has to take an order. And if you dare ask for something she doesn't approve of, she'll make sure you know exactly how disgusted she feels. Her opinions about LGBT+ people? Well, she doesn't just hold them quietly. She broadcasts them. She'll mutter under her breath if she has to pipe rainbow frosting. She's been known to complain loudly about how unnatural it is to put 2 grooms or 2 brides on a cake topper. More than once, she's rolled her eyes at customers who asked for pride-themed cupcakes, or even just a simple rainbow design. And she's done all this while collecting a paycheck from a store that, ironically, prides itself on being welcoming to all. You'd think someone like that would eventually get told to knock it off or find another job. But small towns have a way of letting people like her dig in like ticks. She's been there forever, and she clearly knows she can get away with it. The only reason I know so much about her is because one of my siblings works at the store, too. My sibling is LGBT+. They've had to put up with her snide comments and passive-aggressive little remarks for years. They've watched her wrinkle her nose at Pride merchandise. They've seen her do everything short of refusing outright to fill a cake order that didn't align with her personal bigotry. And it finally reached a point where enough was enough. That's when my sibling decided to turn her hatred into her own private form of karmic retribution. You'd think a person who literally works in the business of making people happy with cakes would have, at minimum, some baseline decency. But no, this woman, let's keep calling her Cassandra the homophobic cake witch, seemed to go out of her way to make every queer customer feel unwelcome. If you were ordering a standard birthday cake, she'd grunt and scribble down your request. If you mentioned anything even vaguely rainbow-themed or said the cake was for your partner and used a pronoun she didn't like, suddenly she'd be rolling her eyes, sighing theatrically, or pretending she couldn't hear you. My sibling told us about the first time they had to watch her fill out an order slip for a wedding cake with 2 brides on the topper. According to them, Cassandra acted like she'd been personally asked to commit a war crime. She made a big show of how ridiculous the design was, complaining under her breath while other employees and customers pretended not to hear. No one wanted to argue. Nobody likes confrontation, especially in a small-town grocery store where everyone knows everyone else's business. So people just looked away and let her get away with it. But my sibling? They were stuck working alongside her, day after day, week after week. And every time she launched into one of her sanctimonious little rants, they had to bite their tongue. When my sibling first told me about her, I thought maybe they were exaggerating. Surely no grown adult would be that petty about piping some rainbow frosting, right? But then I started hearing stories from other people. Friends, neighbors, people who tried to order pride cakes or cupcakes and had been met with the same thinly veiled disgust. One acquaintance even said she'd accidentally misspelled a customer's name on a pride cake, and then acted like it was no big deal when the customer complained. So no, it wasn't an exaggeration. It was her routine, her brand. The final straw came when my sibling mentioned she'd made another nasty comment about these people needing so much attention, right in front of a young queer couple who'd come in to order a cake. It wasn't just that she was a bigot. It was that she was smug about it. So when my sibling's birthday rolled around, they didn't just want any cake. They wanted her to make it. specifically a pride-themed cake. Bright, unapologetic, impossible to disguise. When they told the family about the plan, there was a moment of silence. Not because we were hesitant, but because we were all picturing the same thing. Her face when she realized she had to spend hours piping a design celebrating everything she despised. And the best part? She couldn't refuse without risking her job. It was such a perfect, petty, beautiful idea. And once the idea was planted, it grew faster than any of us expected. It started as a single request, one pride-themed birthday cake. My sibling announced it over dinner like it was just another casual update. I think for my birthday this year, I want a rainbow layer cake, with extra bright colors, and maybe a "Love is Love" inscription. We all looked at each other. Everyone immediately knew exactly why. We weren't just talking about a cake. We were talking about making Cassandra do the one thing she hated more than anything, using her decorating skills to celebrate LGBT+ pride. My mom was the first to smile. "That sounds perfect," she said, her voice deceptively mild. But you could see in her eyes she was already planning. Because if there's one thing my family is good at, it's turning a small bit of mischief into a full-blown production. A couple of my siblings started pitching ideas. What if we ordered a second one just to share with friends? Or maybe send one to that coffee shop with the gay barista? He'd love it. Wait, why stop there? Everyone we know who supports Pride could get one. It was like someone had flipped a switch. Within minutes, we were brainstorming how many cakes it would take to keep Cassandra elbow-deep in rainbow frosting for the entire month. And once the idea took root, it felt inevitable. It wasn't about revenge in the hateful sense. It was about reclaiming something joyful from someone determined to poison it. It was about making sure that, for once, her disdain would be irrelevant. Because she'd have no choice but to produce the most flamboyant, unapologetically queer cakes our town had ever seen. My wife was the one who suggested we spread the word beyond the family. "You know," she said, tapping her phone, "if we each told a couple friends, and they told a couple friends, it wouldn't take long before she was swamped." I nearly choked on my drink from laughing. "An entire month of Pride cakes," I said. "Can you imagine?" My siblings' grin was downright wicked. "Oh, I can imagine," they replied. "And it's beautiful." So we did it. We started texting and emailing. "Hey, thinking of ordering a Pride cake? Now's the time. Hey, you want to support the LGBT+ community in the sweetest way possible? Get a rainbow cake." It wasn't hard. Turns out, when you give good people a chance to quietly thumb their nose at bigotry while also getting dessert, they're more than happy to participate. By the end of the week, Cassandra wasn't just getting one order. She was getting dozens. And the best part was, she couldn't refuse any of them. Because she worked for a business, and business was booming. Once we decided to go all in, it felt like planning a secret mission. Everyone picked a role. My mom was in charge of coordinating the family orders, birthdays, anniversaries, just because cakes. My sister started reaching out to friends who ran small businesses around town. My wife set reminders to place her own orders on different days, just to keep the stream steady. And me? I was the unofficial point person for collecting photos and updates, because I knew I'd want to remember every detail. Within 48 hours, we had more than 20 orders lined up. Each cake had its own unique design request. One with bright rainbow stripes down every side. Another shaped like a giant heart with "Love Wins" in cursive. One with little edible glitter flags stuck into the frosting. Some were simple, just layers of bright colors inside. Others were so over the top they belonged on the front page of a baking magazine. It was glorious. And the best part was how careful everyone was to act completely polite and neutral when placing orders. Nobody said a word about Cassandra's reputation. Nobody hinted that this was anything but sincere celebration. Because technically it was. We weren't lying. We really did want Pride cakes. We just also wanted her to have to spend her entire workday decorating them. By the end of the first week, the orders had tripled. A couple local teachers put in requests for classroom celebrations. A neighbor ordered one for their kid's birthday party. A coworker of mine, who is also LGBT+, heard about it and decided to get one, just to make her do more rainbow piping. I thought maybe, just maybe, Cassandra would start turning them down. But then something incredible happened. The bakery manager saw one of the finished cakes in the pickup area. According to my sibling, she was delighted. "This is adorable," she'd said, smiling wide. "Why haven't we been advertising Pride cakes? We could sell a ton during Pride Month." Right there, she told Cassandra to make a display cake for the case. By the time my sibling texted me the update, I was laughing so hard I nearly fell off the couch. Not only had we buried her in orders, now her own boss was going to use her work to attract more. If there's ever been a definition of poetic justice, it was Cassandra the homophobic cake which forced to churn out rainbow cakes like her job depended on it, because it did. My sibling said the first few days she tried to keep up appearances. She wore her usual scowl, but she still went through the motions, mixing icing, carefully smoothing frosting over sheet cakes. But by day 4, the cracks were showing. She was behind on orders. Every time she finished one rainbow confection, another order came in. The phone at the bakery counter rang nonstop. People were calling to ask if they could get Pride cupcakes, Pride cookies, Pride cake pops. Apparently, the manager had gone ahead and put a huge sign in the window. "Celebrate Pride Month. Custom rainbow cakes available here." Customers loved it. They snapped photos for social media. They told their friends. More and more orders piled in. And Cassandra had no choice but to keep working. My sibling said every time she had to pipe, "Love is love." She pursed her lips so tight her whole face scrunched up like she'd sucked a lemon. I asked if she ever outright refused. "Nope," my sibling texted back. "Manager said if she won't do her job, she can find another bakery. She needs this job too much to quit." I almost felt a twinge of pity. Almost. But then I remembered all the times she'd made customers feel small, all the moments she'd rolled her eyes at people just trying to celebrate who they were. And the pity vanished. The best moment was the Saturday my mom went to pick up the first of our family's orders. It was a 3-layer cake, bright, garish rainbow stripes with the words, "Happy Birthday, Proud and Loud," in big looping script. According to Mom, Cassandra didn't even bother with fake politeness anymore. She set the cake box on the counter with a flat stare, not saying a word. My mom just smiled, signed the receipt, and wished her a wonderful day. The manager happened to be behind the counter that morning, too. She leaned over, beaming at my mom. "I'm so glad people are enjoying these," she said cheerfully. "They're our best sellers this month." You could practically hear Cassandra grinding her molars. I'd never seen such a perfect combination of petty and righteous. Over the next couple of weeks, the orders didn't slow down. If anything, they grew. Other local businesses started buying them for Pride-themed events. Parents ordered them for their kids' parties. People who didn't even know us joined in, just because they liked the idea of supporting something positive. Meanwhile, Cassandra kept decorating. Her hands probably cramped from piping rainbow borders on cake after cake. And I suspect that every time she lay down at night, she saw rainbow sprinkles when she closed her eyes. In the end, it wasn't about the cakes themselves. Sure, they were delicious, bright layers of color and soft, sugary frosting. But the real sweetness came from knowing that for once, Cassandra's bigotry didn't get the final word. For years, she'd wielded her job like a weapon, using it to quietly punish people she didn't approve of. She made them feel unwelcome, like ordering a cake to celebrate who they were was somehow a burden. And this time, she had no choice but to contribute to exactly what she despised. She didn't get to roll her eyes and sabotage an order. She didn't get to mumble nasty comments without consequences. Instead, she had to spend day after day producing hundreds of cakes that stood for everything she claimed to hate. There was something beautifully fitting about that. Maybe it wasn't the most earth-shattering form of justice. It didn't change her heart. It didn't erase all the times she made people feel small. But it was enough. It was a reminder that sometimes, even the pettiest acts can tip the scales back toward fairness, if only a little. By the time the month was over, she'd probably made more Pride cakes than any other decorator in the state. My sibling said she looked exhausted, like she'd spent 30 days fighting a battle she never expected to lose. And maybe, in a small way, she learned that her contempt doesn't have the power she thought it did. Because no matter how much she tried to sour the celebration, all she really did was make it bigger. When I think about all the rainbow cakes sitting on kitchen tables around town, I feel this quiet satisfaction. People cutting slices, smiling, feeling seen and celebrated. And none of it could have happened without her. That's the part that still makes me laugh. In the end, she was forced to become an unintentional ambassador for pride, one piping bag at a time. Sometimes, life really is that poetic.